It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello and happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Paul Dottino. If you want to give us a call, we'll take it at 201-939-4513. Chat about some New York Giants football. No practice today, folks. No media availability, so not a lot of news of the day to talk through. So Paul and I thought today might be a fun day to go through some training camp superlatives, or awards, if you like. We haven't prepared for this at all. We decided to do this about 4 minutes ago.
This is off the cuff.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of go through it. I don't even have categories in mind. So I'm going to give Paul a category at a time as I think of them, and we'll each kind of give a player that we think fits into that category. And we'll kind of go through some guys we think have either impressed or done other things at camp that I think are notable. Paul, are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, by the way, no official word on Tyrone Tracy. I think you've seen all the reports out there that it looks like, again, if these reports are accurate, the Giants have not confirmed anything injury-wise, that it didn't. This doesn't look like it might be a season-ending type of thing, and it could just be a matter of weeks until he gets back, which obviously would be great news. I think the expectation is he will be part of what I think is going to be a pretty heavy running back rotation, Paul, with Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy. Maybe Eric Gray will figure out a way to get into that mix too during games. So if reports are correct, good news on Tyrone Tracy that this doesn't seem to be something that's going to cost him a majority of his rookie season.
Yeah, and I think it was Ian Rappaport of NFL Network.
Art Stapleton had something too today.
Did he as well?
Yep.
So,
and so did Jordan Renan.
You know, whatever optimism that is being expressed is obviously a sigh of relief for everybody who saw what had happened, because anytime a guy goes down in a non-contact injury, you get very skeptical. I mean, and again, this is always the remark that people will always make anytime somebody goes down. Well, it was real grass. It wasn't the turf, right, John? I mean,
that was the first thing after it happened, and Bob Pop and I said to him sarcastically, "But they're practicing on grass.
Yeah,
non-contact injuries don't happen on grass; they only happen on turf."
Exactly. Never mind the fact that it happened to Barkley in Chicago on real grass a few years ago, too.
Or Colin Johnson on that same practice
field
2 years ago.
You're not kidding.
His Achilles. Good for Colin Johnson, by the way, having that big first preseason game for the Bears.
So happy for him.
He's such a good dude. You guys know how much we rooted for him here.
We sure did.
He's such a good dude. Hopefully he figures out a way to make that team.
Yeah, definitely. I think the interesting part for the Giants, though, is that let's just say we don't know how long Tracy's going to be out, but we know he's out for now. We just don't know how long. They need to figure out, again, how they want to configure the roster because of the new IR rules. You're going to be able to, if you want, when you get to your 53, you can make him one of the designated to return guys. And, this way he doesn't have to be out for the whole season. Like it used to be, when you got to your 53, if you IR'd a guy in camp, he'd be gone for the year, John. Remember those days?
Well, it still is. You can't IR him now. You have to wait till you get to the 53 to IR him, and then you can bring him back after 4 games.
Now you get to the 53, and you can give him that temporary, recallable IR thing.
Now, the problem is that would then cost you a roster spot,
it
right?
Does.
Because then you have to put him on IR, and then you have to add somebody later.
It does.
After you get to your initial 53. So.
But it's a little bit more flexibility than the old rule where you had to say, okay, 53, he's IR, he's gone for the year.
Right.
Well, thank goodness for the Giants that they've got a guy who may be able to fit into that little slot that allows them a little bit more wiggle room than it would have otherwise.
And it is 4 games, right?
It is.
The IR?
It is.
That changed around so much during COVID.
I know.
It hasn't stuck in my head exactly
I know.
what it is.
Well, thank goodness we don't have any more COVID rules.
Well, and also the pup rules and IR rules are more similar than they used to be, so you don't have like different numbers or all that too, which makes it a little bit easier, which is good. All right, so let's go through some of the training camp superlatives, Paul. So let's start here.
Yeah.
Biggest surprise player for you during training camp so far? Who and why?
I'm going to go to the offense, and I'm going to mention Dante Miller. Only because when he got here, although he had the 4.28 in his Pro Day 40, and immediately projected as a potential even kickoff return guy, I got kind of excited when they signed him. But the truth is, I just didn't know how training camp would develop for him.
Remember, he's an Ivy League guy. You don't see many Ivy League guys
No.
make impacts in the pros.
You know, and on top of that, remember, he was also behind Jay-Sean Corbin when he got here originally. And then Jay-Sean Corbin wound up getting dinged up, and he went to waived injured, and now he's gone. So that cleared a path. And then as training camp developed, Miller kept getting a lot of reps. And John, he flashed every time he got the ball. So I'm going to say he's probably, for me, the biggest surprise because of his situation and circumstances. I never thought he'd get the opportunities that he's gotten.
All right, I'm going to go to defense, so I'm happy we have two different guys here.
Good.
I'm going to go Elijah Chapman, Baby Bison, who came to the Giants out of Southern Methodist out of Shreveport, Louisiana. He was an undrafted free agent this year. Dante Miller was just he's not. I don't think he's technically an undrafted free agent, Paul. He's just a free agent that happens to be a rookie because he couldn't be drafted this year because of the rules.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly how that gets classified in that vernacular per se.
I have to believe the league will call him a rookie, though.
Yes, he is listed as a rookie, but listed as just as a free agent, not as a UDFA.
Okay.
So that's how he's listed on the Giants
Paperwork.
roster. Correct. And that's all that really matters. So Elijah Chapman has probably been, other than Dexter Lawrence, the Giants' most productive interior pass rusher in practice so far.
Yep.
Now, he's mostly going against the 2s and the 3s, though he's starting to got a couple reps with the 1s the other day in practice in full pads. And he just figures out a way to get into the backfield. Now, here's the thing. He's very undersized. We had a chance to talk to the Giants assistant coaches. That was yesterday. Or was that 2 days? That was Sunday, right? 2 days ago? Whatever it was.
Couple days.
And talking to Andre Patterson, first of all, I said, well, you know, a guy that's 278, he interrupts me. He ain't 278. He goes, he's 285 now.
I know he did.
285. Gotcha, coach. My bad. Sorry for reading the roster where it says 278. But jokes aside, and I didn't care. It was a funny exchange.
Right.
But he said he is not pound for pound the strongest guy in the room. Just flat out the strongest guy in his room.
He said that.
Yes.
I heard it.
I heard it. Go ask the other guys in the room about his strength, and eyes will go wide, and they'll tell you.
I think he went as far as to say he's the strongest guy on the team, John.
I believe he did. But he's not around the other position groups as much. So I will just say the fact that he's in the same group as Dexter Lawrence, and he said he's stronger than Dex.
And Andrew Thomas,
Correct.
another big,
well, again,
strong
man. He's
man.
not coaching Andrew Thomas directly. Of the guys he's coaching. The
Oh,
fact that he's ahead
yeah.
of Dexter Lawrence is ridiculous.
Insane.
It's insane.
He's given up 50 pounds.
And Andre Patterson is not one to artificially inflate guys in terms of, what they're doing. He's an old school coach. He makes these guys earn their accolades and superlatives for the point of this conversation. And, he talked a little bit about, he likes Chapman because while he's short, he's not small. He's listed at 6 feet tall. I'm not sure he's quite 6 feet tall, but it creates, and he joked about this too. We've talked about this on the show. We talked about this during the draft process when we talked about some shorter defensive tackles, right?
Yes.
When you have a shorter defensive tackle, it creates natural leverage for you. And Andre Patterson said, look, when I'm talking to this defensive lineman, I'm always talking about pad level. You know who I never have to talk to pad level about? Elijah Chapman, Baby Bison. Because his pad level is so naturally low, and it really gives these bigger 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" offensive linemen difficulty just to get low enough to block him. He's explosive. The natural leverage, which, again, adds to his strength. When you're the low man every time, it naturally makes you stronger. He says he has longer arms than his size might indicate. I have been trying to find an arm length for him. All I found is 32 inches, which is not very long. But maybe for a guy sub 6 foot, that actually isn't bad. I would have to look that up. But he says he likes his arm length, his natural leverage, his strength. He's clearly, Paul, explosive enough to use his quickness to get into the backfield. Yeah. So, when this process started in the summer, Sideshow, I think, is strong, but he was a guy, all right, I can't really take a 278-pound defensive tackle seriously. I go back to Nikita Whitlock when he was here. For Giant fans that remember him. Now, he was like 250, so that was even smaller.
Right.
But what he's shown me and the way Andre Patterson has talked about him and the fact that this team is looking for a 3-technique pass rusher, I think he's got a shot.
Well, he's got 2 games to prove it, I still think he's probably more likely practice squad because I don't know how many people from the outside, without seeing him every day, will appreciate him. And therefore, he probably could sneak through.
I remember Paul, if I recall correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, he wasn't even in the initial group of undrafted rookie free agents. He was a tryout guy later.
Mm-hmm.
So he was sitting there and no team wanted him.
So, he not just fell through the cracks, he fell through a cavern.
It was this is Chase Blackburn level of undrafted rookie free agent.
You got to dig deep.
So the reason I say that, folks, is again, he is a guy that was literally only added to the Giants offseason roster because somebody else got hurt and he was a rookie minicamp and they liked what they saw out of him. So I never would have expected that I would be sitting here on August 14th saying, this guy's got a chance to make the team. But he actually, I think, has a chance to make the team.
Yeah, I think both of these guys 4 or 5 months ago would have been considered immense long shots. And as it stands now, I don't know if they're on equal footing, but one guy on defense and one guy on offense, and trust me, the people in the building know their names.
Most impressive player on the offensive side of the ball for you?
Well, I'm going to go with impressive. I will define that as just flat out eye-opening.
Yeah, the best guy in camp.
And that's got to be Neighbors. He's done some really incredible physical things. The way he's pliable and is acrobatic. The speed, the quickness, the route running. Look, he's everything that was advertised and then some. And
by the way, you aren't grading on a curve because he's a rookie, right?
No, I'm not.
Which is the amazing part of the whole thing. That's why I asked the question.
And, John, here's the additional thing that I wasn't giving him enough credit for because he didn't have a lot of pelts on his belt regarding contested catches. We've seen him do it here. He can do it.
He didn't have to do it in college because he was always open.
Right. And we've seen him get covered here and make the catch.
All right, this is the ultimate question for you. If I put you in a time machine today and you can go back and I gave you full control of the Giants drafts, and I know you would prefer Rome Odunze.
I was always an Odunze guy because of the skyscraper thing.
Now that you've seen Neighbors in person for 4 months, what would you do today with your draft pick?
I haven't watched Odunze practice daily like I have Neighbors.
I understand. You're going off your college impressions of Odunze, and that's fine.
Going off of my college impressions of Odunze, I would probably swap it to Neighbors today if I had that decision to make. Now, if I was watching Odunze practice every day, I might still stick with him.
Yeah, but he might also be equally awesome for all we know.
I don't know the answer to that.
Correct.
The people in Chicago would have to tell you how he's working out.
And apparently he's been pretty good, from my understanding.
It sounds like it's going well. But how, jaw-dropping impressive has he been? I don't know the answer to that.
Have you watched any of the Hard Knocks yet for the Bears?
No, I have not.
Yeah, he's just as impressive as a kid. He had him talking to a couple of high school kids that were at practice about what you need to do to become a good player and stuff. And he's just a great dude. But we talked about during the draft process. He was, you call him the blue players. He was a blue player.
I did see an article, and was it Bleacher Report? It was one of the major services. It was not like a blogger guy. One of the major services said something.
Damn you blogger guys.
Yeah. One of these major services said something to the effect like, oh, you know what? Maybe Harrison wasn't the best receiver in this draft. Maybe Neighbors and Odunze are having better training camps than him. We'll have to see how it goes.
How about we be patient? And
let's be patient about that. But apparently, these two kids have really made names for themselves during camp.
Yet again, I have not seen Marvin Harrison Jr. in
Nor
training
have I.
camp, so I'm in the same situation as you.
Can't answer.
You had Neighbors and Odunze right touching.
Yeah.
I had Neighbors and Harrison touching, but I probably would have picked Harrison. After seeing Neighbors in person, I might swap that, to be honest with you.
We watch him every day.
But
it's hard not to feel
if I was
that way.
watching Harrison in person every day, I might think otherwise.
Right, right.
There's not one thing, and I want to word this right, that's why I hesitated. There's not one thing that I could say, boy, I wish Malik Neighbors did this a little bit better the last
I
6
totally
weeks.
agree with you.
The only thing I'd say,
I do have
the
one.
first week of camp,
I do have one. Go
he
ahead.
had like 2 or 3 drops. And
Yes,
he
he
didn't
did.
pick up the ball well from Jones. Remember the one where he just didn't go for it and 2 hit him in the chest and he dropped him? That
And-
was all within the
and
first.
he took that hard.
That was all within the. And he was out there, he was running extra routes with Daniel after practice. He was doing jugs machine.
He was very upset with himself.
And that was literally the first 3 days of practice.
Yeah.
Probably. And all those happened in the first 3 days. Since then, and again, coaches will come down here and strangle me for saying this. From my perspective, it's been as good as you could possibly imagine.
I will say, and please, folks, don't cut this out and put it on Twitter out of context.
Cut it out. Aggregate it.
No,
Aggregate
no,
Paul.
no,
Here we go.
no,
Aggregate
no.
them.
Because
Pearson, cut this out for
I'll say it.
YouTube.
I'll say it with a huge wheelbarrow of salt. Go back and watch his snaps against Detroit the other day. There were 12 of them, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, what did I had it broken down. How many of his snaps were running plays? How many snaps were possible targets to him?
Okay.
And how many snaps were actually pass plays? I had this broken down. Let me see if I can find it on Twitter. The point that I was going to make is that there were some running plays while he was on the field. And let's just say I did not see a very aggressive
I got it.
attack at making the block. Let's just say, let's put it that way. It was a preseason game, so perhaps there's a little bit to go into that situation. Maybe in a regular season game, he will attack the defender a little bit better.
Yes.
But if you want to nitpick, I would like to have seen him be a little bit more aggressive in his block.
All right, I'm going to go Andrew Thomas just because he's awesome. I mean, you watch him, he doesn't lose. Brian Burns murders everybody. He doesn't murder he doesn't murder Andrew Thomas. Like you saw it like against the Lions. Marcus Davenport is a legitimate good starting defensive end. Mm-hmm. He had no chance against Andrew Thomas.
True.
One play, he worked his way inside after a couple of seconds. Andrew Thomas has been phenomenal, fantastic. As advertised, he's been great. So
The best I've ever seen him look.
I don't think we need to add anything more than that.
Not at all.
I'll take Brian Burns then.
Okay, well,
Because he's been amazing too.
I'm going to go defense next. There we go. The person's going to go Brian Burns. That is the low-hanging fruit, so I'm going to agree with him and say Brian Burns, so you need to come up with another guy other than Burns. So I agree, and up here, so I'll just add to it. It's the repertoire of pass rush moves, man. Outside spin, inside spin.
He's amazing.
Long arm, quick inside. He has a little, that little ghost move where he goes outside and he dips and he bends the edge. Everything, when the trade happened, I remember I said on this show with you, Paul, you go back and you're like, the production based on what I thought he was when he was in the draft was a little disappointed. But then I looked at the tape and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is still great. I love watching him. That's exactly what we've seen in practice.
Context is important.
He is so much fun to watch.
Him and Kayvon can only make each other better. Like, they talk about their moves all the time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I want to add something on Kayvon, by the way, Pierce. I'm happy you brought that up. I'll just say this about Brian Burns. He looks like a complete player. He seems like a great guy in the locker room, a total pro. And if you can just, and we're going to have the Warren Sharp huddle going up next week. He had a great stat, Paul. I think the Giants have had the worst point differential in the first halves of games of any NFL team in the last 2 years. That was including their playoff year, by the way. Remember, they were constantly playing from behind that year. If you could just play with the lead sometimes to give this guy a chance to rush the passer, he is going to be impossible to deal with. He is going to be really, really good. Best pass rusher pure pass rusher that I've seen on
Since
this roster.
JPP.
I'm going to say since OC. I think he's better than JPP as a pure pass rusher.
Ooh, that's asking a lot.
I think he's got more moves. JP doesn't have the array of moves that Brian Burns. That JPP was an effort guy. He was a speed athleticism guy. He didn't have the array of moves that Brian Burns did.
I agree with that, but JPP did have, because of his frame, he was able to do things with that frame that Burns does not have.
Well, yeah,
Burns has length, but he does not have the length of the frame that JPP
was more
had.
powerful, I'd say.
And
remember,
pretty
JPP,
damn good
though,
against the run, too.
No, I'm talking pass rusher. I'm not going
I'm sorry.
I'm talking pass rusher. Pure pass rusher.
My bad.
That's okay. And remember, JPP sometimes, Paul, when he went up against some of those top tackles, he kind of ate up a lot of the weaker teams sometimes and wasn't as great against some of the
Understood.
better ones. So I'm going to say OC. You want to say JPP? I totally get that too. I'm not going to lay down with you on that one. I totally get where you're coming from.
I'll think about that some more, but I think those are certainly close in that regard. I will add this, though. When the Giants made the deal for Burns, and I remember people saying, well, you got to pay him a lot of money, so you got the draft choices plus the money now. What do you think about that? And my thought was, he's got upside. He hasn't reached his potential yet, John. And I really believe that.
I'm with you.
Watching Brian Burns right here, right now, I'm thinking he has been stuck on a defense. Yeah, Reddick was there for 1 year, but Derek Brown was the only other guy in the front seven who people really had to worry about. I truly believe this guy, the combination of him and Lawrence and Thibodeau, the collection of those guys will be greater than the sum of the individual parts. This guy has big-time ups, and the Giants believe that. That's why they made the trade plus gave him the money.
All right, so give me your most impressive guy on defense.
On defense, I got to be Drew Phillips for me.
More than Dexter?
Dexter does this all the time.
It doesn't make... All right, so...
He gobbles people up.
Stipulating Dexter's awesome. Your next guy would be... Because you should stipulate that because he is still the most impressive guy in defense.
Well, yes, he is.
He's a monster.
Yes,
you can't
he
block
is.
him.
Dexter's like the Abominable in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
The Bumble.
The Bumble, yes. And Coach Dable is Yukon Cornelius, too.
I don't know if he's tall enough to be Yukon Cornelius.
Oh, I'm still going there.
I don't want to make him the dentist. I think he's small.
That's true.
What was his name? I'm trying to think of the dentist's name.
Was it Jaime? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
It was something like that.
But Dexter Lawrence gobbles people up for lunch on a regular basis anyway, so I'm just pushing him aside, and not as hard as that is to do with a 340-pound man. I'm going to go Drew Phillips because, coming in, we knew that the Giants really thought a lot about him, and he would have the potential to be a competitor in the slot spot. Well, to me, I don't know that it's much of a competition anymore. I think already he is really nosed out by 2 furlongs ahead of the rest of the pack at the slot spot. And I just think that he plays more mature than his age, and he plays bigger than his size.
Hermie.
There you go.
Thank you.
Very good.
That was going to bother me if I didn't find that
I'm glad.
You were close, though. You were close.
All right. So I'm going Drew Phillips. His physicality and his maturity is just really off the charts for a kid who just came into the program.
Good. And I'll honorable mention for biggest surprise, Deontay Johnson, a linebacker. I think he's been very good, too. Unfortunately, he's hurt right now.
I know.
We're not sure when he's going to be back, but that's a guy I'll throw out there, too. All right. We have one call on the line, so I'm going to take the call, Paul. Then I have a couple more ones I want to get to here, but I don't want to leave our caller hanging for that long. But we still have a couple other more to do, and if we get more calls, I'll obviously take those as well at 201-939-4513. In the meantime, go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. Matt Sims up there right now, Pearson, or not yet? It is. Most recent episode, talked to Matt Sims. He was here with Big Phil, as they call him, and he's watched practice a couple days. He interviewed some people, so really good discussion. I really only talked to him about the Giants offense. I did a lot of Daniel Jones in the passing game, and Brian Dable was basically 25 minutes on just the offense in the passing game.
Wow.
Figured former quarterback.
Okay.
Makes sense. Let's do it.
Nothing on Big Phil's diet?
We talk a little Big Phil in the beginning, but not his diet.
Okay, well, Matt says he eats too much.
Yeah, so wow, you taking shots at Phil Sims. He's not going to appreciate that.
Ah, Phil knows I love him.
Phil also likes to give people a hard time. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know.
So that's up there right now, and you also have the most recent 10 as we continue to count down the top 100. That was 20 to 30 or 30 to 40, Pearson, the one that's up there right now. 30 to 40. That one's up there as we're into the bottom third now, starting next week. So go check that out on the Giants Huddle podcast. It looks like next week, folks, we're going to start rolling those out 5 days a week, more or less. So a lot of season preview stuff coming up as you wrap up training camp. Should be a lot of fun again. Go check it out, the Giants Huddle podcast. All right, let's get to the calls at 201-939-4513. I want to make sure we hit the phones as we get ready for preseason game number 2. Hugo in New Jersey is up next. Hi, Hugo.
Hi, good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon, Hugo.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talk about physicality and toughness on the show recently, coming off the performance of the first preseason game. And if you recall, at the beginning of the offseason, I said that the Giants' number one priority should be to get tougher, more physical. Now, as the offseason evolved, I had my doubts that they had achieved that goal, because typically when you think about getting tougher, more physical, it's about adding lots of trench players or maybe some front seven players on defense. And certainly the Illuminor signing, I was very pleased at that signing, by the way, fits that bill. But after the draft, I had my doubts. But I think what Joe Schoen has done here in a very interesting and unorthodox way is added physicality and toughness with perimeter players in Neighbors, Newbin, and Phillips.
Yeah.
And I'm pleasantly surprised.
And by the way, Hugo, just to throw it out there, Deonte Banks, another corner that's very tough that they brought in last year.
This is all part of that dog mentality that they're talking about. It's a different kind of physicality.
And I included Neighbors for some of the reasons you guys have already noted.
No, he's
his
a tough
ability
guy.
to make contested catches. I think one thing we're going to see from Neighbors that we haven't seen yet is ability to break tackles after catches. Because of his frame and the way he's built and his mentality.
Yeah, and obviously in Hugo practice, nobody is tackling, so that's something you're right, we have not seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So staying with the theme of toughness, I think I really do like the hiring of Michael Gabriel as our special teams coach. I just find him as a very interesting listen, and I think this roster is littered with bottom of the roster players who are going to be special teams standouts. So I think the combination of coaching and sort of the good special teams players on the roster will make our special teams be a positive factor for us this year, as opposed to either a neutral or negative factor. And it might really be a way to squeeze out one or two more wins. So I'd be interested to see how that develops as the season goes along. But I'm as I stand here today, I'm positively I have a positive view of what our new coach and some of the new players can do. I do have one question, and the Tracy injury kind of brought this to mind. You guys have been, we've been talking about we're going to be doing running back by committee all off season, and part of that is obviously splitting carries between the number one back and the number two back. And I think, Paul, you said that Tracy was apparently the number two back. I had a question about who has been groomed to be the third down back, if anyone, or they've just been splitting, reps there.
Hugo, I would say I think probably if I had to pick one, I'd say probably Tracy. But honestly, the way and Paul, maybe you can correct me if I've seen this incorrectly, they almost just alternate plays now at the running backs. Like you'll see Singletary, Tracy, and Gray, all three of them get runs with the ones. Then all three of them will get runs with the twos. Then all three of them will get runs with the threes. So they really haven't given us any sort of hints as to what specific packages or groups these guys might be playing with once the regular season gets here. Yeah. They're really just rolling them in and out. I'm sure there's a method to the madness that we don't see because we don't see how it's set up. But from what it just looks like, all right, they'll go in order: Singletary, then Tracy, then Gray. Singletary, then Tracy, then Gray. And that's how they kind of just run through it.
The interesting part about that, John, I think we've also seen that not only does it matter or doesn't it matter which unit they're rolling with, but it also doesn't seem to have any correlation to run play or pass play.
No, it doesn't.
Every one of the guys has been taking running plays and running plays to the inside, running plays to the outside,
and we've seen
pass plays.
We've seen them all get the
They've
ball
all done
thrown to them and catch that same type of wheel route
They've all
used
done
in
it.
The preseason game.
Yeah. They've all done it. So, I mean, whatever Coach, Dable is doing, with whatever his rationale is, it's apparent that they have a lot of confidence in these guys to be able to run the whole playbook.
Yeah, it's going to be frustrating for big-time fantasy football people like Paulie Dottino.
Oh,
You are not going to know who to put in the starting lineup each week, because I really do think, in all honesty, that, look, I would be shocked if Devin Singletary is still not the starter every week. But, Paul, my feeling here, just the way this has gone, he's going to play the hot hand. Like, Brian Dable has no issue. All right, he's running well against this team this week. He's going to get more carries. That's how I think this is going to go.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I do think that because of Singletary's experience, though, and his time with him in Buffalo, he will still have a little bit of a lead dog role.
No, I agree with that.
But it's not going to be like he's out in front of the carriage and everybody else is 10 feet back. It's going to be a lot closer than that in terms of the distribution, I think.
It isn't going to be like Saquon's here. It's
right. That's more of a bell cow back. And that's not what we're going to see here.
Pearson. Hugo, you're gone? Yeah, I think we lost Hugo.
He's still there. Hugo, I did want to add one other thing, though, in terms of your comment on special teams, and I think this is important. I don't want to just let this go away because the Giants' punt unit, when Olszewski got here, improved about tenfold. And I thought that their punt return game was really good last year, and I don't know how it's going to be much better. I think I like Olszewski to win the job. I know Coach loves McKenzie, but I could not take Olszewski off this team because I saw what he did the last 2 months of the season.
He also has some toughness and crazy to him, too.
He is absolutely from another planet, that guy. Okay?
Yeah. And that's coming from this guy.
Oh, yeah. He really is. Yeah. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not.
Okay? So
he gives you
a lot.
Coverage.
He gives you
coverage as well as return.
Right.
Correct.
So I don't have any trouble with the punt return or the punt coverage game, especially when you got Nick McLeod out there as a gunner. So I'm really good with that. I don't think it can get much better. I thought it was really good last year, second half of the season. Now, what didn't do anything was the kick return game, and the kickoff coverage units weren't as good as they could have been. So that would be the area. So I don't
focused on.
Yeah, because I don't know what Gabriel could do with the punt return game and the punt coverage because it was really good.
Yeah, I was more thinking the coverage teams. With guys like McLeod, you've noted Darnay Holmes.
Darnay's a real good job doing that too.
There's a number of people. Mouse.
Yep.
I mean, we have a bunch of people. But the one thing I was going to say about running back is obviously Singletary has a lot of experience. If Tracy eventually wins that job, and that's a guy I was thinking about, he was a former receiver, so he knows how to run pass routes and has good hands, presumably. He's really got to buckle down, and while he's off the field recovering from this injury, really get into his assignments because, as we know, blocking is a big part of that job.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'll leave it at that. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Hugo. And by the way, Tracy, by all accounts, has picked up on that pass protection stuff very quickly. Devin Singletary spoke to the media the other day, and he said, look, he's much more like a second or third year back than he is a rookie back.
Yep.
And the question was, how is he picking this stuff up as a rookie? And he basically showered him with praise. And we heard from Joel Thomas the other day. He said he told us that he's the running backs coach. He said that he's been doing well. So I think Tracy is remember, he was a very experienced college player, just not a running back. So maybe all that football he played in college is kind of paying dividends here.
Think about this for a second, and I want you to jar your memory bank, okay? We've heard that Neighbors picked up the playbook faster than they thought he would, right? Because coming out, it can be pretty hard for a rookie in a very complex offense like the Giants have. We've heard Newbin, very, very football smart, and has picked up the playbook very quickly and very mature beyond his years. And we've heard same thing about Tracy. I mean,
and Theo Johnson.
And Theo Johnson, too.
No,
think about this, folks.
People have raved about the intelligence of this rookie class.
It's a common thread.
It is.
And this was not an accident. Joe Shane clearly valued this part of the component of the personnel file when they picked these guys.
So let's see. We've hit then the smart part of it. We've hit the tough part of it. Do you want to talk about someone being dependable so we can check all three boxes?
Well, let's see him play 17 games. Okay.
Fair enough. All right, folks, you could run or walk, and we'll keep taking your calls here, 201-939-4513. Run or walk with Giants legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run presented by Quest on Saturday, September 7th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt. After the race, stay for a festival with appearances by Giants DJs, Giants legends, and a live DJ. Register now at Giants.com/5K. And then the night before, folks, on Friday, September 6th, it's free and open to the public. The Giants will have their annual Fan Fest presented by Wendy's. They'll celebrate the 100 seasons of Giants football, a ceremony honoring the top 100 Giants, autographs, panel discussions by Giants legends, historical displays, photos with Lombardi trophies, and an incredible drone light and fireworks show to end the night. Get your tickets now by visiting Giants.com/fanfest. And guys, I've heard the drone show and fireworks show is pretty cool. And that's something that's very tough to do around here because of all the airports.
Yes.
And you have to get FAA clearance for that, and it's always impossible to do it. I don't know how our team here managed to pull that one off, but it's supposed to be pretty cool. So check it out, Giants.com/fanfest. Go check it out. It should be a lot of fun.
I keep looking for when they're going to do rehearsals, and I can't find out.
I don't think there is. I don't think there is a rehearsal.
You can't? You can't do a rehearsal?
My guess is that they're not going to have a rehearsal.
Yeah. So anyway, I got a good question for you.
Okay.
Which of the veteran guys coming back from last year do you think has taken the biggest step? And I know he mentioned Lawrence Cager.
like that.
Coach
That's a
said
good
that
one.
already, but Cager's now banged up.
Again, different injury than the first time.
Yes. Groin was hammy. Now it's groin.
Veteran guy.
I got a guy.
I kind of mentioned Deontay Johnson already, so he'd be a guy I talk about.
He was a practice squad guy.
Yeah, but he was on the roster.
Okay. I got think about who I like because
give yours first.
Boogie Basham.
Yeah,
that's for me. It's an easy one, and in fact, you could argue that he had one of the best defensive games of anybody on the field last week against Detroit. He was certainly impactful.
Yeah, he was a good player.
And he's had a good camp. He's had a number of good reps.
No one on defense. I would maybe Dean Belton's been pretty good, but remember he didn't practice much in camp last year because he hurt his clavicle. He was hurt the whole summer, so it's not
that's
really,
fair.
I can't really go off of anything for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
but
it's hard for me to
you
say
could.
he took a jump.
I'll give you.
He's
I'll
in the
let you
play a
have
lot.
him. But I'll let you have him because he did place him third safety, and now he looks like the starter. You could go there. I wouldn't kill you for that.
I think that's a reach.
You want to go Ryder Anderson
or veterans?
Veterans coming back.
Yeah, I'm going to ask him most impactful veteran free agent. That's gonna be my next question for him. So you can start thinking about that one.
You want to go Ryder Anderson? You could do that.
Yeah, Ryder's a good one. I think Hyatt too. I think
I was
Hyatt.
going to say Hyatt, but I didn't know if he was a veteran.
Yeah, I think anyone that
He
was here
is.
last year. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Hyatt's a guy, Paul.
Hyatt's not a bad
Just
answer.
the route tree, he's running a lot more of those in-breaking routes than we saw in last year's training camp, I think. So I think Ryder's a good one, too, in terms of a guy you can have that conversation about. And is it unfair to say a jump? But this is he's been hurt the last two camps. This is as good as I've seen Azeez Ojulari look since his rookie year, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. Although because in his rookie year his efficiency was very good,
That's what I'm
even
saying.
though
I'm
he
not
missed
sure.
a lot.
That's why I'm not sure I can call it a jump, but he's just been really good.
I agree.
All right, very good. Let's get back to the calls here, Paul, and then
Yeah.
and then we'll get to the impactful veteran edition. Let's go to Cliff in New York. He wants to talk about Kayvon Thibodeau. Hi, Cliff. What's going on?
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, when Kayvon was drafted number 5, I remember there was some concern about, well, he's a great talent and he's bright and he's articulate and he likes to talk. Is he going to be any kind of a problem? And there's been zero of any kind of a problem that I'm aware of. He's been a great teammate and everything else. And then when they made the trade for Burns, which was a combination of a trade and a free agent signing, and I was having trouble absorbing it at first because it was the biggest one for my team since Plaxico, probably. We talked on the show one day, and I was wondering how Kayvon was going to react to that. So everything I'm hearing about Burns is like, he's even better than advertised because he didn't get much advertising in Carolina.
No, Kayvon has been a great teammate, Cliff. There's been zero issues with him in the locker room, and even some of the crazy stuff he did in interviews right before the draft on NFL Network that frankly scared the heck out of me. And I talked about it on the show, so people know you haven't seen any of that. This is the word I'll use. He's been extremely professional in his time here, which is all you can ask for.
Black Panther has his Spider-Man, and he's really happy about it.
That too.
He's really happy.
And by the way,
about
I
it.
think you could consider Thibodeau in the conversation we just had too. I think he's looked better in terms of being a consistent pass rusher in this camp.
My biggest complaint with Thibodeau, if I may interrupt Cliff for 1 second, is that he doesn't sustain it through 17 games. He's shown in the last 2 years here that in the latter third of the schedule, his efficiency goes down, his production goes down. And last year,
And even game to game, he usually on like 2-3 sack games, then he has 0 sack games. You know what I mean?
but has more of those in the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season.
I agree with that.
And it seems like he kind of slows down. He runs out of gas a little bit.
He looks like he's in great shape, too.
He
Like,
looks great.
He's gotten bigger in the upper body since he's been here,
And
all
he
that.
talked about that going into his second year and said he worked on it. And I thought he was a little better, but he still didn't reach the finish line with a lot of gas left. And I'd love to see him do that this year.
Go ahead, Cliff.
Well, that's right, and this is obviously a guy whose ceiling we hadn't seen yet.
I agree.
The former DC was really who, for all his faults, certainly knew something about players, and thought that this guy, the I forget the way he said it, like the sky was the limit, something like that, so what I was thinking of is this is a new challenge for him. I was thinking, you hear about single parents getting married, they have a blended family, then the children have new big brothers and stuff like that, so everything I'm hearing is, they're working great together, but Burns is going to get a lot of press if he delivers the way everybody is seeing that he looks, and I'm just thinking, is this going to be like Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan?
Look, Cliff, thanks for the call. Look, I don't think that's the right conversation to have because Jordan was on such a different level than Pippen.
That would be LT and Carl Banks. That's what that would be.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're looking more of Strahan and OC type thing is what you're hoping for.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Now, both those guys are Ring of Honor guys. You guys have a long way to go before they get there, obviously.
Yeah.
But just in terms of the comparison of the players. And I'll say this about Thibodeau, and I think this is really interesting, and I'm looking forward to getting Kayvon on the huddle at some point at the start of the year to talk about this. On 2 different occasions, Paul, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, talking to the media, everyone asks him about him and Burns and their team, working together. And by the way, they always are working together when special teams drills are going on. They're not on special teams. So it's always them 2 and Charlie Bullen working together on their pass rush moves. Every practice. They're always together. And Thibodeau was asked about him and Burns, and he's given this answer on 2 separate occasions, that Burns is more of your twitchy, bendy guy. I'm more of your long arm power guy. And what I want to ask him is, how did you evolve in how you think about yourself as a pass rusher from when you came out of school to where you are now? Because when he came out, Paul, that's not how I would have described him as a pass rusher.
No.
He was a guy with burst off the line that would win off the edge. Occasionally he'd have an inside counter move and something like that. But it wasn't a lot of hand usage. It wasn't a lot of power. That's not how he won in school.
Right. Get off. His snap was incredible.
Yeah. And I want to know how that evolution happened. Or maybe we were reading it wrong. Maybe that's always how he thought about himself. I want to find out how he came to the point, because he didn't describe himself that way as a rookie.
No, he did not.
He didn't describe himself that way last year.
I remember last year he did say he wanted to get stronger.
Right, no, but he never described his pass rush style as a power long arm rusher. He just
think he did.
So I'm very curious as to how he has evolved, because even when he did those one-on-ones against Penei Sewell, he didn't beat Penei Sewell, as few people do. He's really freaking good.
Sewell did all right with those.
Thibodeau did push him back with his power. And we've seen that in other times in practice where that's becoming almost his bread and butter. I remember we kind of talked in the offseason, Paul, like, I'd like to see that burst from college return. Well, maybe he's decided, I'm going to focus on getting stronger and more powerful and win that way. So that's kind of the conversation I'm looking forward to having with him, because I do feel like he's evolved in the style that he plays with as a pass rusher.
I'm going to give you part of that question, too. Remember what he said when he got here? He wanted to look up Strahan, and Strahan was going to be a mentor to him.
And he was more of a power guy.
Strahan, even when he lost all that weight, he used power and leverage.
Yeah, he was never a bendy speed guy. No.
It was a power, leverage, and moves, technique.
Correct.
And I think maybe, just maybe, the Strahan influence on Thibodeau has kind of morphed him into being that type of player, which, hey, he got him double-digit sacks last year, okay? He's on the way up. His best is yet to come. Same thing with Brian Burns. Let's hope they both rise the boats at the same time.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing. If you watch Michael Becton's Sights and Sounds after Lions camp,
yeah,
Kayvon gets off the field and he says, "That wasn't enough. I need more." Like his work ethic is crazy. I feel like
Oh,
That was like after you got out the field going against
It was,
Sewell.
and that was after
Yeah.
the first day where it felt like 100 degrees.
Well, in his reps during the week,
That's a good one, Pearson. I didn't see that. Thank you.
I don't remember Thibodeau beating Sewell, but I remember grading their snaps as draws almost every single time, but not wins for Kayvon. Draw. I'll get draw, and it was like, okay, you draw Sewell. That's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
and look, his
that's not a bad deal.
And I really feel like his hand usage has gotten a lot better. The way he, swipes hands away, gets guys off of him, his swipes, his double swipe, his rip move, like all those things have gotten better since he's gotten here. To his credit, some guys they come, they think they're already a great player, and they don't, focus on improve. And that's what separates the good guys from the great guys. And I think that was another thing people worried about. Kayvon Thibodeau never lacked for confidence coming out of college.
No.
So I think people wondered, did he already think he was great? Would he put all the work in to become even better? And I think we have seen the answer to that is no doubt about it. The answer to that, I think, is yes.
Find out about the Strahan influence. I think that's a key.
I
think that is a huge key.
I think they're trying to get Kayvon for something else, so I'm not sure I'm going to get him for week 1.
Oh boy!
But I'm going to work on him for either
All
week
right.
2 or week 3, and hopefully I'll have a chance to get into that with him. All right, we'll do one more training camp superlative, but first let's do Wilson and Roxbury. Wilson, what's going on?
Hey guys, how are you?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, listen, I got a couple of questions, Johnny, that I don't understand, and something on Tommy DeVito.
Sure.
So listen, like on the contracts, right? Like, I don't understand something. All the players, right, that on the roster right now that are practicing and playing preseason games, do they all get paid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get a preseason check.
Yes, which is smaller than your regular. Though I think I believe the guys with the bigger contracts, I think they actually get legit game checks for preseason now. I'm not sure how that's separated, but I do think the game checks for preseason are bigger than they used to. But you get paid much less for the preseason and training camp than you do the regular season, Wilson.
The only thing that I'll say to that, John, and you're right, it may have changed, and there may be a higher level of
I thought
it.
in the new CBA got all.
But there is a standard preseason check that goes across the board.
Right.
Now there may be a second level for veterans or for
Maybe.
guys who make a certain amount, but that is a standard preseason check. It's a game check that goes around the league. So, we're not talking about getting paid what you get paid for to play the Vikings against the Houston Texans this weekend.
Okay, because like I said, two things. If you are on the practice squad, right, can you refuse to go to another team and say, no, I feel comfortable, or you can't?
No, not if you're a waiver claim, you can't.
Oh, he didn't say that.
No, well, but if you get cut, most of these guys hit
you got to go
waivers.
through waivers first. No.
He's talking about after you're on practice squad.
If you get claimed on waivers, Wilson, you have no choice. But if you clear waivers, then you can do whatever you want. Absolutely.
I'll give you a good example. Davis Webb a few years ago was called. The Dolphins called him and asked the Giants and Davis simultaneously, hey, we'd like to sign him to our 53 for the final game of the regular season. And Davis went to the Giants, went to Dable, and said, well, the Dolphins want to sign me. They want to bring me up off the practice squad to their 53, which is what you have to do. And Dable told him, oh, well, we're going to start you this week. We're going to reward you for what you've done for us. It was at that point for the Giants, as you know, the game wasn't going to matter. And Dable said, we're going to reward you. We're going to activate you this week. You're going to start for us. So Davis turned down the offer from the Dolphins. So, yes, once you're on practice squad, you can turn down another team's offer.
Right, because I just, there's something that sometimes I just don't understand. That the receiver, right, Allen Robinson? He signed a contract with the Giants to come to the Giants, yet he has not guaranteed a spot. So that makes no sense to me. So why would you do that and lose an opportunity with another team? You know what I'm saying? Because you guys the other day you said that he's not guaranteed a spot on the team. So
all right, here's the deal. Here's the deal, Wilson. Okay. He was a free agent after his contract 1-year deal expired with Pittsburgh. So he was out on the street. And
Right.
he was hoping to go to a training camp to at least, if not win a spot on this team, at least show during the course of training camp and the preseason games that he still has gas in his tank, and that if he does get cut, he'd like somebody else to look at that tape and pick him up. He doesn't want to quit.
Okay.
Here's the good news.
Oh.
He's got some ties to the area. That
No,
is also another reason why he's here.
And he also wants to, and frankly, he also wants to do media, and being in New York is not a bad place to
Not
do
a
media.
bad place to be.
And also remember, very few guys are guaranteed spots and have guaranteed contracts in the preseason. So it isn't much. It's not like he was in high demand. He could easily retire after the year.
Okay,
So,
I got it.
Yep.
And on Tommy DeVito, guys, fully, it's not a really a tough decision for Brian Daboll. I wouldn't keep 3 quarterbacks myself. I wouldn't do that. But the decision for Brian Daboll is not as difficult as he might, as people might think. It's very easy. Is Tommy DeVito worth more to the Giants than the 53rd player on the roster? That's it.
and I think the answer to that is probably yes.
Mm-hmm. I
Well,
agree.
there you go then.
I agree.
Well, there you go. And then you keep him, and then after the season starts, you have him as the emergency quarterback, and then you can bring another guy up as the 53rd guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Makes
Right.
perfect
So
sense, Wilson.
You're right. So I mean, I don't know if they'll do it, but if they think that they're going to lose Tommy DeVito on waivers, which I don't know if they would or they won't.
They would. Believe me, they would.
You think?
Yeah, I think they would
think
too.
Have you looked at the third string quarterbacks in this league right now?
Yes, Paulie, I've heard.
And
I
more
know
and more
it.
teams will keep 3 because of all of the injuries that we saw last year.
Well, speaking of which, I'll break some news. ESPN reporting, and I think Kevin O'Connell just said at the press conference that when they went in to look at J.J. McCarthy's knee, when you fix a meniscus, you either can just trim it, which means it's a weeks of injury recovery. If it's really bad, you have to repair it, which means you're out for a long period of time, and J.J. McCarthy is going to miss his entire rookie season with the torn meniscus. So
terrible. That's a terrible.
You want to know a team that might pick up Tommy DeVito? There's one.
Well, Johnny, I totally understand. And listen, I mean, this is obviously you don't want to make fun of a kid getting hurt.
No, it's terrible.
But a lot of people wanted the Giants to take J.J. McCarthy, and with the Giants' luck, the same thing would have happened.
Yeah,
so, you know
I hear you, Wilson. But
like I said, you don't want to make fun or anything like that, but you know what I'm saying.
No, thanks for the call, Wilson. And if you came here, you don't know if he would have got hurt here.
No.
Who knows? But yeah, that stinks for him. I mean, look, I think they were going to really take their time with him anyway and let him sit for a while to kind of figure things out and learn. And now, well, then they kind of have to, unfortunately for him. But one more chance. The Sam Darnold hope train rolls on, baby.
All right, which begs,
he's gonna have a chance, man.
Yeah, this begs the question: who is the third string Vikings quarterback as we sit here today?
It's a great question.
I saw Nick Mullins.
It is.
Nick Mullins is okay.
It is the great Nick Mullins, former 49er.
Hey, Nick Mullins is a solid backup.
Okay.
That doesn't sound like you agree with that.
I called him the great Nick Mullins.
No, I felt like that was a lot of sarcasm in the great.
I
Nick
think
Mullins.
Nick Mullins is a very acceptable number 3. I'm not sure that I think he's a good 2.
No, all right, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
Do you think he's better than the number 2s the Giants had 3 seasons ago?
Well, there were a lot of folks who had better number 2s than the Giants had 3 seasons ago.
I won't name names.
There's no need to do so.
Yes. All right. So the final superlative, and by the way, that in all seriousness, like that's terrible. You hate that for a young guy like him. Who, by all accounts, whether or not you thought the Giants should have picked him or not, or how good you thought he was, or how good you think he's going to be, good kid like that. There's nothing.
It stinks.
Yeah, it's awful. It
long term. Could be a good thing.
And it could be, Pearson. You're absolutely right.
Which I said to Pearson yesterday. Long term, I'm so much against rushing first-round rookie quarterbacks into the lineup.
Yeah.
Because the majority of them do not fare well.
By the way, we're seeing that now. He's 21? Drake May's 21? Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and Jaden Daniels are 24 and 25 years old. They were in school literally forever. It was 5 years for Daniels, 6 for Penix, and I think it was 6 for Bo Nix too, right?
Yes,
if I'm
it
not
was.
mistaken.
Yes, it was.
So, guys, experience is okay. You get better as you get older. Like if have them figure out the mental stuff this year, and then next year, they can figure out what's next for him. So we'll see what happens with the Vikings. But, of course, that means Sam Darnold, who we kind of thought was going to be the starter in week 1 anyway. So it's not a huge surprise or deal to me because I thought Darnold would start anyway. But Giants-Vikings, week 1, MetLife Stadium. Sam Darnold, starting quarterback.
Round up the ghosts in the building.
Ah! Unfortunately, I hope when Bill Belichick retired, he didn't take the ghost with him. Right?
That's true.
It's true. All right, final superlative, Paul, and I think this is a good one to end on.
Okay.
And because we already mentioned some of the rookies and such.
Mm-hmm.
Most impressive free agent addition from this offseason, veterans. Which guy has jumped out at you the most? I'll give you mine first. You think about it.
Yeah, okay.
Remember, Burns was a trade.
Right.
So he doesn't count.
Right.
I'm going to go Greg Van Roten. And I think Jermaine Illuminor's been really good at right tackle, so this is not taking anything away from him. But I'm going to go Van Roten is more impressive because he's only been here like a week and a half. He hasn't played center in 3 years. He went to play center, and he was great. I mean, it was really impressive. One thing if he would have stepped in and played guard right away and been good, that's what he's been doing. But to come in and play center right away, it's been really impressive to me that he's been able to step in at center and be so good there right away. And if I'm sitting here today and Greg Van Roten is starting at one of those spots at me in week 1, I'm cool with it. I'm good.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw Van Roten out there.
And I still have to go with Illuminor.
And that's fine.
Because not only has he immediately given the Giants reason to breathe at right tackle if needed there, which it looks like at least at the moment he is, although Neal is starting to work himself into practice.
He did some
was
team
ramped
stuff
up
yesterday. Yeah.
Did a few snaps, had a few snaps. We'll see. But he gives them room to breathe there now. And then even
it's stability. The stability
it's
he
huge.
offers is just
huge.
Off the charts.
And we know, too, his ability to play guard.
Right.
Early in camp, he took some snaps at guard, and he was fine. So, to me, I still will look at that as the best of the signings. Now, I will tell you, under the radar, I don't know how much influence Allen Robinson has had on that wide receiver room because they're all very young and they're very raw. I know from talking to Dable, Allen Robinson's a pro's pro, and they love how he goes about his work.
They've loved how he's worked in that wide receiver
He's a
room.
big brother for those guys. So maybe something that we haven't seen would thrust him into that conversation because we can't get in that room.
Yeah, we did the debate on the sixth receiver last week when we kind of did a roster reset show, and they're going to have an internal debate. Leadership, proven receiver production versus special teams production. How are you going to that sixth wide receiver spot, assuming it's Olszewski or McKenzie for that fifth spot, and that's how it's going to go. We've talked about that before. What are they going to prioritize for that sixth spot? I don't know the answer to that.
No, we don't. I'll say this, Allen Robinson caught all 6 of his targets yesterday.
He was great yesterday.
Including 2 sideline throws.
Even at a deep post where he went over the top for a big, long touchdown.
It was
flashing the speed.
By far the most targets he's had in any one practice this training camp, and he excelled on every one of them.
It was solely with DeVito. I don't think he had a pass from Jones, but Tommy DeVito was going to him all day.
And so it's going to be really hard if they decide not to go there. It's going to be hard to say goodbye to him.
I mean, could they keep him as a 7th wideout if the 6th receiver is a core special teams player?
The only thing that I've toyed with, John, as I told you,
Remember, if your 5th receiver is your returner and your 6th wide receiver is a core special teamer, can you squeeze a 7th on? I would think probably not, but
I don't think you can.
Just throwing it out there.
But I also think, going back to the question that was asked by one of our other callers, I think it was Wilson, Allen Robinson at this stage of his career, I wouldn't be shocked if you did a little wink and said, hey, Allen, look, we really like having you around. We want you in the room. We can't keep you on the 53, but we'd love to have you as insurance. Could we possibly waive you? And, if you get a phone call from somebody, because now what happens is he's a veteran.
He
doesn't get waived.
He doesn't go through waivers.
He becomes a street free agent, so he does not have to go to a team outside of the Giants. He could be cut. Let me rephrase. He doesn't get waived. He gets cut. He does not have to go anywhere. He could be a street free agent, and he could entertain offers, or he could just say to the Giants, yeah, you know what? I really kind of want to be here. I'll be okay as the emergency guy, Bring me back on the practice squad. I'll hang out for a while and see how it goes. That would be a way to keep him in the building and at the same time provide insurance. And I don't necessarily know at his stage, he's quite advanced. He's well over 30 years old. He's had many of his best days already behind him. I don't know how much he's going to get on the open market or how many phone calls are going to be ringing his phone. Just a thought.
Neither do I. Whew, that's a fun show, Paul.
Yeah, it really was for one that we just kind of called an audible
together.
On. That was an audible at the last minute.
And I should note, by the way, folks, before you hit stop on your podcast player, we are not going to have a show on Friday this week. Basically, most of our production team and the hosts are heading to Houston early on Friday, well before we have a show. We were thinking about recording a show and posting it, but we just didn't think it's worth it, to be honest with you. We'll do our game preview tomorrow. It'll be after we talk to Dable for the last time, so we'll have all the information we need that we would have on Friday's show anyway. Mm-hmm. So we'll make Thursday's show our game preview. There will be a huddle up on Friday anyway. My conversation with Mike Sando will be up. It's not really a game thing. That's more of a bigger picture thing. We actually talk about Coughlin and Eli's Hall of Fame chances in that conversation.
Oh, nice.
Because Mike's a Hall of Fame voter.
He has a vote.
So, yes.
Ooh.
So that is about half of that conversation. So it's kind of a wide-ranging deal. Check that out. And then on Monday's huddle, by the way, we have a returning special guest that I know people have been clamoring for. So make sure you check that out as well. And folks, the season's coming closer and closer. If you want to get Giants season tickets, the time is now. You can take your fandom to the next level. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for 2024, but limited inventory is available. To learn about all of the exclusive member benefits and to get your tickets, go to giants.com/tickets, and I'm sure there are some individual game seats available too at that same website. Go check it out. And to check out this show and all of our other Giants content, check out the Giants official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV. It has all our original video content, game highlights on demand, direct to Big Blue fans. It's free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. For Paul Dottino, I am John Schmeelk. Is it me and you again tomorrow?
I think it is,
right?
Yes, it is.
So we'll be back with we actually managed not to talk about the second preseason game at all today. I think that was the best part of the show. So
Dial
saving
us
it all
up
for
tomorrow. We will do that.
And there is a practice tomorrow, but we don't think it's going to be mostly like a half-speed carded deal, so I don't think we'll have much from the practice field. But the latest from Dable, who's probably going to play against Houston on Saturday. We'll talk about all that and more on Big Blue Kickoff Live Thursday at 1 o'clock right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. And then as for next week, when is the show going to be? I don't know. Stay tuned to the website. I'm thinking we're going to keep it in 1 next week. Worst comes to worst, we'll move it back to 12:30, but we don't have any times of any of the practices next week.
No, we
don't.
So
I can't set the time yet.
And we got a Jets practice next week, too.
Correct. So I guess assume it's 1. If it's not, I'll tweet it out and I'll let you know if it's a different time. For Paul, I'm Schmeelk. We'll see you tomorrow.